It boils down to a subtle, it's a very, very subtle energy that takes over for a man's psyche in the sexual arena. I have found this across the board. Every man in the depth of his being is trying to please his woman. He wants nothing more than to be that guy who pleases his woman. It's very powerful. Now, the trick is most guys don't know how to be vulnerable or deal with the pain of not being masterful yet at pleasing their woman. So in the feedback loop of this very sincere man, trying to please the person he is relating to sexually, if the feedback that comes has any bit of shaming, or almost like if the woman feels hurt, angry, or then shaming, those energetics are like, so the man gives, tries his best. Yay, I'm giving, woohoo. Not very masterful, because the way he was raised in our culture produces yellow belts at best when it comes to being a black belt lover, right? For the most part. So that comes across, the woman feels it, and something in her contracts, because the woman's like a sea anemone. She wants just the perfect offering. And when she does, she opens. It gets juicy, and then the man gets more involved and more present. So that's the optimal way. Man gives. If it doesn't hit correctly, woman contracts. And that contraction can be, if she goes to a soft, kind, loving feedback, that can then keep it online. But most women don't know how to do that. They go into frustrated, a little angry, and a little condemning. Even if it's very subtle, sometimes it's not so subtle, but that energy then shuts the man down, and that's part of what locks this whole thing into place. And then we're just like, that's where the standoff often occurs. So what women can do is do their absolute best to soften that energy. Even though they have it, it's understandable. The man, what he's offering is not attuned, it's not hit, and women are really, really tricky to master because every one of them is different. It's not like, oh, you could go to a class, here's how to be the perfect lover, and then apply that across the board to every woman, except for the stuff we're talking about right now, which is stay soft, stay attuned, stay innocent, have no agenda, be willing to talk, be willing to get lessons from each woman you're with. That's how to become a really masterful man across the board. But there's no way. Every single woman is so unique and so refined in her desire body and so precise in what she needs to really bloom her. So the feedback that you give a man, the idea for women is to learn this very subtle art of switching channels out of the frustrated, aggressive, blaming place into on the same team, loving and invitation energy. And it's even more than the words. Now the words are helpful. It's really helpful to say, oh, sweetie, that was awesome, thank you, but I'd love it if you tried this other thing. Can we play in that way? Can we do that? Would you be willing to blah, blah, blah? But the most important thing is that you've actually owned that blame and frustration in you is probably one of your own traumas, your own wounds from your history that this man is innocently touching on and doesn't deserve to be the brunt of, at least in the beginning. Now later, he may be playing his part. He may be doing that. And then, like we said, you might need some more support to get out of that dance. But for every woman I know in this dance, it is this, like the vital foundation of getting a shift is switching channels into this more, hey, sweetie, thank you, and can we try such and such? Would you be willing to play in this way? If you do that, most men are like, yay, I'm getting the lessons I always wanted. Like, I'm actually going to be able to please you. Thank you. They really are. Any man who's even partly connected to his heart, still that will happen. The only men who aren't doing that are the men who are so wounded. They've overridden this altogether, and they just go with this kind of like demand or drive in their own. But all of that is a defense around feeling this very, very sensitive, vulnerable spot that I've seen in every man I've ever known. I mean, they're tender. They're like tender teddy bears underneath. Every man really is. When it comes to being in bed with a woman, like, they just thrive on getting good feedback, and if they don't get that, they're like, oh God, it's just like, the worst thing in the world. So they really, underneath all of that is the desire to be in service and to please and to be met in that yumminess.